We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is so lovely to see everybody's face at this celebration of Earth Day. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I'm going to try to make my comments very brief because actually Greg is going to say everything important, but I'll just leave it to A2P2, and in a weird sort of inverse way, the city is at a very exciting time, I think, despite the horrors. And so it's lovely to be all together in this room right now and in the space together. So glad you're here. I am going to pass it off to Ann Arbor for Public Power's president, Greg Woodring.
Thank you so much, Brian, our executive director. Give another hand to Brian. As Brian said, my name is Greg Woodring. I'm the president of Ann Arbor for Public Power, and I'm so pleased to see all of you here today. It's been a long road leading up to this moment in our campaign's history. 5 years in the making now, fighting for public power. In that time, we have accomplished a lot. We took this idea from something that nobody was talking about, was seen as a complete fantasy, to something that is being very seriously considered and has really reframed a lot of the conversations about how we think about DTE and how we think about how power should be distributed. You know, we're trying to take on something that's pretty revolutionary here. We are challenging a very entrenched, embedded industry. And if we are successful in doing this, if we are successful in taking over the power grid of Ann Arbor, taking over it and putting it back into the hands of the people, reclaiming power over one of our basic necessary resources, and moving towards that sustainable future, setting that pathway, creating that vision of what a sustainable world can look like, we will be the first community in Michigan to have ever done that. It is an incredibly important campaign that we are fighting on right now. It is at the intersection of so many of our large issues in society. The climate crisis is existential. It is not something that can be ignored. No matter what is happening elsewhere in the world, it is continuing to intensify, it is continuing to affect us, and the side effects of climate crisis are only going to further embellish and broil these larger conflicts that we're having in society. And at the same time, we are seeing that these institutions, these structures that have been constructed are failing under the challenge that is being put up against them. We are seeing a rise in right-wing authoritarianism. We are seeing a vicious crackdown on those who would fight to make the world better. And it is a difficult time in our country's history to be optimistic, to have hope, and to put your neck out there and to fight for that better future. It is to the benefit of those who would have us give up. It is to the benefit of those who would have us give in on that just transition, who would seek to ensure that this transition, which will happen, which is necessary to happen, it is not possible for us to continue to exist in this current paradigm. We cannot continue to have our industries act this way and survive on this planet. So that transition is coming. And so the question is it going to be a just transition, or is it going to be an unjust transition? Are we going to end up with a world that is more free, more fair, more equal, and where people, all people have access to the basic resources that they need? Or are we going to move in the opposite direction, where those resources are hoarded, where they are seen as a luxury, where they are upsold and made to ensure that the lives of a few get better and better, while the lives of the many get worse and worse? That is the challenge that we are up against today. And that is what is at the heart of this campaign. We cannot afford to give up hope. We cannot afford to stop fighting for that vision of a better world. And so that's why I'm so excited to see all of you here today, so excited to be fighting with you on this fight, because it is a challenge that we didn't choose for ourselves. It is a fight that many of us would rather not be having to take on, but it is the fight of our generation. It is the challenge that we have been given. And I also think, for me, it's the great honor of my life to be involved in it. And that's really what this big event is about today, is to open up the gates and to say there is a way to take charge of our future. There is a way to put your hands back on the wheel. These existential crises, these large issues of lack of control over our basic resources, of oligarchic takeover of our democratic institutions, of the breakdown of civil liberties, and the impending ecological crisis are not completely out of your hands. They are not issues to be dealt with by somebody else. Instead, they are issues that only can be taken on, only can be totally addressed by all of us taking a part in it. It is
Economic and racial injustices and disparities in such matters.
absolutely.
We'll add that to the list anymore from now on.
Absolutely. We cannot afford to ignore the injustice, the inequalities that are inherent in this system. We all have to take our part in taking that on, and that is why we're bringing people together here today. That is why we are fighting for this just world. And so now is the time where I make the pitch. Get involved. We have many different ways for you to join with Ann Arbor for Public Power, and there are also many other excellent organizations here today. Find your place, find a way to plug in, and join up, because there is nothing, and I swear to you, there is nothing else that is going to give you that feeling of power over your future other than getting involved, getting organized, and working with your fellow neighbors to move forward into the future together. So without further ado, I want to say thank you for joining us. We have some excellent speakers who are going to be speaking on this issue, and I look forward to an excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Give it up one more time for Greg. Before Odile, do you have a quick question?
I just want to say we have a sign for Ann Arbor Public Power in front of our house, and DTE came, a door-to-door guy, to tell us he was going to lower our fees for DTE.
Do we trust DTE? Yeah, they are starting to be afraid. That's right. That's right. Before we get started on our list, we have a very quick announcement from a very important community member, Ember McCoy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ember. I'm a co-founder and current completely absent member of Ann Arbor for Public Power. But I'm here today to talk to you about a different issue, a different EJ issue, and that's the ongoing genocide in Palestine and the attack on local activists here in Ann Arbor. Do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Mueller. I'm, a finishing graduate student at the university, doctor, and someone who's being charged by Dana Nessel over alleged protest activity in support of Palestine.
Thanks, Michael. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard, but earlier this week on Wednesday, the FBI raided the homes of several pro-Palestine activists at the University of Michigan, breaking their doors, refusing to show warrants that had no probable cause listed, and taking their devices days before finals began. The next day, the Encampment 11 had court, and one of Michael's co-defendants was sent to jail for 4 days for allegedly violating his bond by being on campus 20 minutes after his class ended. So he's currently in jail tonight, and he'll get out tomorrow. As Greg said, we're in the midst of a right-wing authoritarian crackdown, but it's not just Trump that's doing that. Our Democrat Attorney General and our Democratic Board of Regents are spearheading a dangerous path, targeting local activists for free speech in the same ways we've seen this happen for Cop City protesters, climate divestment protesters at the University of Michigan, Black Lives Matter protesters, and DAPL protesters across the US. And we really need all hands on deck. So we just wanted to give a quick announcement to plug our bit.ly, which is our fund for our legal fund and mutual aid for the people who are being attacked. It's bit.ly, so bit.ly/UM Legal Fund, all lowercase. And we have a table outside with flyers And we have court support tomorrow at Hogback Road on Washtenaw, so our comrade's going to get out at 8 a.m., so we're trying to get as many people out there tomorrow to show support. And then the next court date for the Encampment 11 is May 5th, also at Hogback Road. So feel free to find us or find our table to get plugged in, and we appreciate all the support. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And yeah, I'll just quickly add, just because it seems appropriate given the context of where we are and how we're talking about Earth Day. There's been discussion about how we need systemic change, and we need to understand the interrelated crises facing us, right? Environmental crisis, genocide in Palestine, economic crisis with billionaires hoarding wealth in this country, right? And I think an analogy maybe for the moment that we're oligarchy, yeah. And one analogy I think, or another case that is worth thinking about is like the movement against Cop City in Atlanta. Have people heard about the Stop Cop City movement? This is hopefully the right crowd for that. So for those who may not know, it was a movement to block the development of a cop training facility in Atlanta, which was gonna be environmentally harmful, and people rallied to defend the forest and to defend human life and dignity against the police.
And we have one out of Michigan up north as well.
Yeah, absolutely, with Camp Grayling, I think you're referring to? Yeah. So anyway, just in reference to this particular topic, there's been a lot of repression against the Cop City movement. 61 people are facing RICO charges, these trumped up charges from the Georgia Attorney General. And that is really not just about those 61 people. It's an attack on the movement. It's an attack on everyone's ability to fight for environmental justice, for abolition, and all the things we care about. So that's kind of similar to what we're seeing here, I think. This is an attack not just on defendants, but it's an attack on Palestine. It's an attack on our ability to wage popular movements. So we should think about what can our organizations do to fight back against this and build pressure so that we don't have to be hamstrung by Nestle or other prosecutors attacking our movements.
Appreciate you two very much, and I just want to reflect a little bit on how sort of these two speaking and everything that has gone on is a reflection of the bravery that we need in this moment. Our next speaker is another pillar of the community. Michelle Deatrick has started I lost my cheat sheet, but the DNC Climate Council, is the leader of the Washtenaw County Environmental Council, is a beloved member of the Ann Arbor for Public Power Advisory Board, and has been in about every fight that you have heard of that relates to the climate in this area. So please give a warm round of applause for Michelle Deatrick.
So good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Michelle Deatrick. I'm the founder and the chair of the DNC Council on the Environment and Climate Crisis. And yeah, I'm a farmer, battleground state organizer, and chair of the Washtenaw County Environmental Council. And I just want to acknowledge, I think there are some members of the council in this room, and they do a lot of work for no glory, very little thanks. I'd like, if everyone could thank them right now. Raise your hand if you're a member of the Washtenaw County Environmental Council. Brian, Lauren, thank you. And we're intending to try and dig into the data center fight a little bit. So a little sneak preview. You should check out our meetings, fourth Tuesdays, and they're virtual, so you can check us out. So look, I have the privilege and the very good fortune of getting to travel all over the country talking with people who care deeply about climate and the environment, and sometimes also public power. But it is really, really moving and special to be here in my home community with people who are in the fight about an issue that is so, so important. And I wanted to be able to start by saying Happy Earth Month. But, that's a tough one to say right now, and it's gotten harder every year, and this one hits especially differently. Look, I was going to say, not going to sugarcoat this. How could I possibly sugarcoat the situation after everything that we've been hearing from Greg and from Brian and from Michelle and everything that we see when we open a newspaper or CNN or MSNBC or whatever our news sources are? You know, Musk and Trump are taking a wrecking ball to our government, our democracy, our rights, our climate. And they are threatening cuts and making cuts that affect us right here in this community. Their 65% planned cuts to the EPA could devastate the EPA office right here in Ann Arbor, and it's kind of like a hidden treasure. They have been working on making sure that our vehicles are cleaner, and every vehicle in the world today is cleaner because of the work that they do. They want to roll back the clean car and truck standards. They're trying to make it impossible for states to have more ambitious climate regulations than the federal government does. So much for states' rights and local government and all that. And recently, and I'm also a labor activist, so this hits me on so many fronts, but recently Trump signed executive orders to bolster coal mining in ways that will endanger the workers who are in the mines. You know, it's just like bad for the climate, bad for the cost of energy, bad for the workers, many of whom are still already fighting black lung disease. And then there's these chaotic tariffs, and I try to not say that word tariff. Let's call them what they are. They are regressive taxes. They hit the most vulnerable among us, right? The worst. They're going to make it even harder to make the transition to clean, safe, renewable energy because it's going to make it harder to strengthen our electrical grid, to get solar and wind from where it's generated to where it's needed to be used. And heaven knows, like when Michelle asked everyone to raise their hand who had a power outage in the last year, it's like basically everyone in the room, we need that more reliable energy, and we need it to be renewable energy, and we need it to be cheaper. So the other wonderful, thing, being sarcastic, of course, here, that Trump has rolled back or frozen over $20 billion in Michigan clean energy projects to make our electrical grid more reliable, to help us use less energy. I'm sure DTE and consumers are cheering this on, and to help working class Americans save money. And I'm a farmer. We're already struggling with climate impacts. There's a reason that farmers have among the highest suicide and depression rates in the country. They're cutting NOAA, they're cutting the National Weather Service. It's hard enough when you can have some idea to be able to predict the weather, but imagine for farmers how much harder they're going to make it. So 90% of USDA funding, I'll just make sure I get this right. Yeah, 90% of USDA funding in Michigan is for what's called commodity conservation, practices and programs that help promote environmentally friendly farming practices. And it is both culturally and economically hard with farmers, I know, to make that transition into regenerative agriculture, into organic practices, into practices that help conserve our rapidly eroding soil. So, and guess who's hardest hit by them doing this? In many cases, after farmers have already invested in the equipment to make these programs move forward and to move toward the more environmentally sound practices. The farmers have already spent the money, and now the federal government's not going to reimburse us, right? So guess who's hardest hit? It's younger farmers, it's farmers of color, it's women farmers, people we need because we are facing a huge scarcity of new farmers in this country. So it's a lot. It is a real whole lot. And so it makes what we do in our communities even more important because of what's happening at the federal level. And I think it's important to remember a couple of things at this point. And it really resonates with what Michelle was saying. You know, none of our elected leaders have a mandate to make our energy more expensive. None of our elected leaders have a mandate to make our air dirtier by refusing to make the move to renewable energy, right? None of them have a mandate to collude and work closely with and accept donations from fossil fuel corporations and the utilities so that they don't want to be making sure that we have that renewable energy, so that they're willing to side with the people over profit and over the corporations. So we need to remind them of that. And so thank you, Michelle. We need to go. We need to say this to them. None of them, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, has a mandate to do any of that and to be working with and accepting money from the corporations and utilities that are using our skies and our land and our waters as open sewers. Enough is enough. So I loved everything everyone said so far, and the way people are calling attention to the interconnectedness of all of these issues, because they absolutely are. And what we are doing here at Ann Arbor for Public Power is part of that wider struggle against oligarchy and against embedded racism and embedded misogyny and against the takeover of our democracy. It's a part of the fight against crony capitalism. Affordable, clean, renewable energy is a human right, and fighting the forces which work against it is part of the fight against those who want to cut our Social Security and cut our Medicaid and cut our veterans' services and cut SNAP. I mean, it's just like you list these things and you're like, what? How cruel, how awful can you be? And they're getting worse. More than 10% of American households are energy insecure, meaning that they can't afford the energy to just basically regulate their temperature, keep their house cool, keep it hot, cook their food. And when you are energy insecure, you are housing insecure. We are facing a national housing crisis, a state housing crisis, a local housing crisis. Fighting this is the battle for fair, equitable access to housing as well as to energy. Look, no matter how bad it seems, and it's bad, and it's probably going to get worse, right? I do believe, and this room helps me to know it's true, that the people are going to prevail. We have power, we have a voice, and we are turning the tide. And I'm just going to give you one example of hope. In Wisconsin, there was the election for the state Supreme Court judge. Right, fossil fuel interests spent big against her. Koch brothers and others. They didn't want her in there. They didn't want her making decisions about public utilities and pipelines, and we won. And we closed the gap in Florida. So there definitely is hope, and it's because volunteerism, in part, was way, way up. People were out there. 62 years ago this month, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King smuggled his landmark letter out of the Birmingham City Jail, where he was imprisoned as a participant in just peaceful demonstrations. And that letter is still so relevant today, and please read it or reread it if you haven't read it recently, because he was responding to white pastors in his area who called his activities as an organizer and protester of injustice unwise, untimely. They called him an outsider, a disruptor. They said it wasn't time yet for justice or equality or equity. They said, wait. And here's what he wrote back. On margins of newspapers that he had to get smuggled out of the prison. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Anyone who lives in the United States can never be considered an outsider. And his response reminded us of the interrelatedness of all communities and states and of all issues. There's no such thing as an outsider. We all live here together. We all deserve the basic human rights, which include clean, renewable, safe, reliable energy. I think I got all the adjectives there. And the straightforward way to that is through public power. So thank you very much, and thank you to Ann Arbor Public Power.
Give it up for Michelle Deatrick, everybody. Our next speaker, I'm going to be honest, I don't know personally, but she has been recommended by two people who I respect very deeply, who are Sid and Fiona. I don't know if they're around. Oh, Sid's right there. So I know Hannah Baker is going to be a killer speaker right now, but also an amazing part of this fight into the future. She is a student climate organizer at U of M, executive board member of the ACLU undergrads at UMich, and is studying environmental science at UMich. So please give it up for Hannah Baker.
Hi, everybody. Just to introduce myself real quick, my name is Hannah Baker, and I'm currently a sophomore at the University of Michigan. I'm an earth and environmental science major, and I am trying to be a climate scientist in the future, which, if I might say, is very daunting right now. And I'm the new organizing chair for the ACLU undergrads at U of M. Before I begin, I just want to say that it's an honor to be speaking alongside such distinguished speakers, and I want to thank Ann Arbor for Public Power for this incredible opportunity. I'm from Hillsdale, Michigan, which, for those of you who haven't been yet, is a small rural farming community on the Indiana-Ohio border. I lived in a farmhouse where my neighbors were mainly Amish folks or cornfields, and I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by trees, flowers, and beautiful Michigan summer nights. Growing up, there was always a certain beauty to seeing the fireflies twinkle in the cornfields and a clear sky of stars above. Likewise, I'm a member of Gen Z, meaning that I was raised alongside the rise of social media and the globalization of smartphones, laptops, and other similar technologies. I had the world in my hands, meaning that I experienced a deluge of information about the climate crisis at a pretty early age. My love of the nature that surrounded me as a kid influenced my passion about anthropogenic climate change. However, being at the whims of the World Wide Web flooded me with endless articles about climate doom. I was subjected to regular news discussing the worsening of extreme weather events throughout the globe, which brought many casualties, rising carbon dioxide levels, and global warming, the droughts in California that brought inevitable wildfires, oil spills in the ocean, and the battle of constant environmental injustices in low-income communities. As a kid, I was told that Gen Z would solve the climate crisis, that we have the power to change the world. But with the continuous batter of damning climate news through my phone, it felt as if I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders. Who was I alone to change the world when so many problems are at hand? It almost seemed easier to curl up and hide from the problems of the world than to find a way to get involved. It wasn't until recently that I learned the same thing had been told to millennials and Generation X. They, too, were supposed to be the generation to save the world from the climate crisis. I'm sure the up-and-coming Generation Alpha will be told the same thing. For generations, we have pushed the weight of the world onto our youngest and brightest minds, hoping that they will develop solutions that can create a better future for generations to come. But the thing is, we all hope for a better future for our descendants, whether it's our children, grandchildren, or simply our fellow travelers in this world. However, by continuing to hope that future generations will magically solve the climate crisis creates a distant and constant divide between ourselves and the problem at hand. Perhaps not only should we look to create a better future for future generations, but a better future for ourselves, because the climate crisis is here and the climate crisis is now. The knowledge of the climate change extends much beyond the time in which any of us have been alive. Our first knowledge of our effects on the climate began in 1856, when an American scientist named Yousef discovered that carbon dioxide and water vapor, gases that are large components of our atmosphere, absorb heat radiation incredibly well from the sun. Her discovery, of course, was accredited to a man named John Tyndall, who separately came to this conclusion 3 years later. Foote's work laid the foundation for the study of climate science and meteorology. In 1896, Swedish scientist Svante Arrhenius deduced that the burning of coal as a result of the Industrial Revolution will worsen the greenhouse effects. Since 1896, we have known about this effect on our planet, yet continued to shove it aside as a problem for future generations to solve. Time after time again, countless studies have demonstrated the negative effects yet to come as a result of burning fossil fuels, one of the most notable being a study conducted by ExxonMobil in 1978, where their scientists predicted a warming trend of approximately 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade, which is, of course, proven to be spot on for our current track. ExxonMobil, of course, denied these allegations, and this report was only uncovered in 2023. Anthropogenic climate change itself is an issue that has already been passed through the generations. For over 100 years, we have known and understood the effects of industrialization and the burning of fossil fuels on the planet. Now we face a monumental decision: 2024 was the first full year that consistently remained above the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold set by the Conference of Parties in 2015. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts that in the next 30 years, we will see up to a foot of sea level rise, which covers the Florida Keys, much of the southern tip of Florida, which threatens Miami, as well as New Orleans and low-lying coastal areas throughout the United States. Furthermore, according to NOAA, we will be spending $35 billion annually on hurricanes and other extreme weather events, alongside the probability that most Americans will be spending up to 50 days above 90 degrees Fahrenheit each year. This is our crisis now. This is a multi-generational effort because climate change does not discriminate. It affects people of all ages, races, backgrounds, and cultures. But by forming community, we raise awareness to all voices that will be affected by climate change because we all deserve access to nature, clean water, and clean air. We deserve a chance to stop and smell the roses, and we all should be able to truly appreciate the beauty of our planet. During my childhood, one of the most vivid memories from living in Hillsdale was the opening day of hunting season. I didn't hunt personally, but most people around me did. It was practically a holiday with many students and faculty taking the day off. And similarly, I often remember people ice fishing on the old mill pond around the corner from my house. That is, when the ice was thick enough, which became rarer as I got older. Hillsdale, Michigan is one of the most conservative counties in Michigan. Having moved to Ann Arbor for college, which is one of the most liberal counties in Michigan, I can tell you that people on both sides of the political aisle want the same thing. We all want clean air, clean water, and forests for recreation, whether it's hiking or hunting. We have more in common with our neighbors across the political aisle than we do billionaires in power. Okay. We are the American people. We are the American people, the fabric of this country. It is our stories that sew the quilts, and we have the power to write the next chapter to create a better future. But we need to step past the system that has worked so well to divide us for so long. Our politics divide us with the two-party system where we are led to believe that we are truly different from our neighbors. Our media divides us with emotional paralyzation about our climate, with articles about how there is no hope. It profits off our fear and hopes that we will be too immobilized to make change. Our system divides us through the continuation of years of racial inequity and wealth disparities, through lack of educational opportunities that build biases against others. We cannot build a better future without understanding our divide. Our current political system is built to divide us. Both the right and left will be devastated by the climate crisis if we do not bridge our gap to work toward a better future. In the next 25 years, it is predicted that farmers, who have a tendency to vote red, will lose anywhere between 10 to 20% of their crop yields, which would ultimately harm both our food production and their incomes. Climate change isn't just a planet problem, it's a people problem. So when we look at a green future, what does it look like? I can tell you what a green future is not. It is not eliminating our Department of Education. It is not defunding the research division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It is not reducing the power of the EPA to protect our environment or allowing waste to be dumped into our water. It is not building cement cities where minority communities are most vulnerable to the deadly heat island effect or subjected to food deserts where they have little access to healthy foods. A green future is not green gentrification, where we displace lower income communities through the installation of trees and other greenery to make way for the rich. A green future is not utilizing our media to emotionally paralyze the public with despair, as I know everyone is overwhelmed by climate change. A green future begins with education. We need to understand that a green future isn't solely about the environment. It is an intersection between advocacy, policy, architecture, law, conservation, science, engineering, the arts, education, and more. Perhaps building a green future isn't just thinking about developing and implementing sustainable technologies to last our civilization beyond our time, but it is also opening our eyes to social inequities existing in our society today. There is no easy or quick way to a green future, but it is possible. It is up to us to shape the planet that we want to see. We are thinkers, sculptors, and artists. We can build greener and better. I urge you to sit down with your neighbor and examine the system that's been built before us to understand the divide that truly exists between us. Now more than ever, the United States is at a crucial divide, and with our increasing footprint on the planet, we need to understand the system in order to create a green future. I urge you to visit the parks, to go visit the forests and feel connected with the planet. Earth is truly one of a kind, with picturesque rolling landscapes, mountains, deserts, forests, oceans. It is a self-sustaining system full of beauty and complexity that humanity has been unable to replicate. I urge you to look toward action now. I urge you to make connections with your neighbor, with other political parties, with other generations, because that is how we will survive and thrive as a civilization. Creating community is the best way to begin building your own green future. This is our planet and our home, and it is our responsibility to reduce our impact on the Earth while increasing the Earth's impact on us. A green future will happen, and it begins with us, regardless of what the news might say. Change begins with a community built by multiple generations, political parties, and backgrounds. We can and will create a better future for ourselves and future generations. And most importantly, it begins with you. This is how we begin to protect, cherish, and fight for our home. Thank you.
Give it up, everybody. Hannah Baker. Next up, your Washtenaw County Commissioner, Yousef Rabhi, has been in politics for 17 years, 15-year elected official around these parts, and like Michelle, has just been a part of every good thing that has happened to our lives through politics, at least. He is also the former floor leader of the Michigan House Democratic Party, and please welcome Yousef Rabhi.
All right, how's everybody doing today? All right, that's right. First, let's hear it for Hannah. That was an amazing speech. Nice work. Nice work. Let's hear it for Michelle, too. She did an amazing job. And I assume I missed Michelle. I came late. I'm sorry. Let's hear it for all of our speakers today. Let's also hear it for our organizers who helped put this event together. All the activists in this room volunteering to make their time available so that this event could work. I'm standing back from the mic because you know I have a big voice. Many of you know me. You've seen me at rallies. And we're in a room here, and I don't want to deafen people too much. Doors are being opened so that sound waves don't have to travel just internally here. I get it. I understand. So I am so honored to be here with all of you today. And by the way, let's just do a round of applause, too, for all the co-sponsors of this event. I was reading through that list. We have a lot of really amazing organizations that have participated in this. Really good organizations that are part of this. So I'm so honored to be here with all of you today to talk about this really important issue. And obviously, everything that Hannah said, I want to echo those sentiments. And you had the foresight to write all your thoughts down. I typically just go off the cuff, but good call on that because, you know, you got a lot in and you got to talk about a lot of really important things. I like what you said at the end. You know, I feel like we all need to support our local trees. We all need to support our local parks, and we need to get out more, and we need to build that connection with nature. That was so spot on, and thank you for talking about that. What is so powerful about Ann Arbor for Public Power, and the reason that I've been involved for so long, and I do want to focus most of my comments on this, because we are in a time in our country, you know, people, you know, it's within the course of your day, people ask you all the time, how you doing? And many of you have asked me that since I got here, and I appreciate that. We should be asking ourselves that question. And I feel like I got to say I'm doing well, but none of us are doing well. This is not a good time. This is not a good time to be in this country. This is not a good time to be somebody who believes in community, somebody who believes that immigrants are people, somebody who believes that our environment actually is necessary for us to breathe and drink clean water. It's not a good time to be somebody that believes those things. Not a good time to be somebody that believes in government, that government can actually do good, that we actually need Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, that people deserve health care as a fundamental human right. But you know what? It is a wake-up call for all of us, because I have to say, as was said by Brian, been in politics for 15 years. I started when Obama was our president. I got to, serve when Obama was president. I got to see the change when Trump became president the first time, and the change again when Biden became president. And what I saw is actually interesting we've all seen this. You guys are all active. There was sort of a stepping back in some ways when Biden became president, because we kind of felt like, okay, our country's back on the right track. And he bombed Gaza. And we realize now, in retrospect, we should have been fighting Biden the whole time. We should have been pushing back, and I want to normalize this, because Democratic elected officials are not our saviors here. A Democratic president will not save us. This democracy depends not just on an election every 4 years, it depends on the people in this room staying active and engaged and engaging others to come to this room. And it is exhausting. Believe you me, it is exhausting. I am exhausted. But we have to persevere through that madness to not just keep electing the right people, but challenging the people that we elect to continue to do the right thing and to live up to the promises that they made on the campaign trail. And I have to tell you guys, I know I'm totally off track now about A2P2. This isn't even about A2P2. I am sick and tired of Democratic elected officials that I have put my faith in betraying that faith time and time again. At the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, it doesn't matter. And that's where we all come in this room, right? Because this is not just about saying Donald Trump and the Republicans are evil. They are purely evil. But also, we do not want the Democratic Party for it to be normal that the Democratic Party is now the Republican Party, basically. We have the fascist party and the Republican Party, and that's not okay either. So we do need to make sure that we're electing people who are actually going to fight for the earth. But what does fighting for the earth actually mean? Because at the end of the day, if we think about it, take a step back, all these issues we've talked about here today, the real core, worst thing that can happen for the earth is a billionaire. Wealth destroys the earth. When one person can use the resources that can be used by an entire community just for themselves, that is destroying the earth. When an Elon Musk and a Jeff Bezos can send rich people to space, that is destroying the earth. Wealth destroys the earth. And most importantly here, capitalism destroys the earth. Capitalism destroys the earth. Consumerism destroys the earth. That is what is taking it out of our societies and our systems. Capitalism, the wealthy, consumerism. We will not have a planet at the rate that we're going. We can't keep buying our way out of this. You said basically that. We can't gentrify our way out of this. It's not okay. We don't want rich people to be safe from climate change, but the rest of us to be effed. That's not okay. And so let's rewind that back to where we are today and what we're doing today. Ann Arbor for public power. Why do we believe in this? We believe in this because Donald Trump has reminded us, it has always been true, but Donald Trump has reminded us the power that the oligarchy has in our government. But those of you that have been part of A2P2 for some time and have heard me speak, we know that the oligarchy of DTE Energy has been in existence and in the sinews of our government for far too long. And when I was in the legislature, I got to see what it means for DTE Energy to have its talons on elected officials. It is the money they spend on their contributions. It is the day-to-day lobbying that they do. Why is it that we can't have clean power in this state and in this community? Why is it that we can't have cheaper rates in this state and in this community? It's because of corporate greed. It's because DTE Energy needs to pocket $1 billion of our money every year for their shareholders. That is why we can't. The money is there. We're paying it. We are paying that money. And instead of spending it on our infrastructure, they're spending it on their CEOs, and they're spending it on their shareholders. That's where our money's going. And now that A2P2 has been active for 6 years now, I've been there since the beginning. Since we've been active, suddenly DTE's freaking out. And they are mailing. How many of you have gotten mailers from DTE saying, look at all the work we're doing in your community? After how many power outages? Last year, this time, I had just gone through a monthly power outage once every month for 4 months. I live just in the street over. Once every month for 4 months. Now they're spending all this time and energy. They wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for the work of everybody in this room and Ann Arbor for Public Power. So when we have them on their heels, when we have them recognizing the power of this community, that is the time to double down. That is the time to push back even harder, to know that our work is not only not done, but has only just begun. Because we are up against a monster, a tyrant, a group of billionaires and millionaires that will not cede their power easily. But what they don't realize, and what the billionaires and millionaires often don't remember, is that when the people speak, when the people organize, when the people get together in rooms like this and do not back down, we will win. We will win. We will take our power back. This is our community. These are our power lines. We paid for them. It isn't some shareholder in some distant place. We paid for those lines. Those are our power lines, and this is our community. And we are going to power our future come hell or high water, because this is what we have to do for the future of our planet, for the future of our community, for the future of our babies. We can't back down. Thank you all for being here and for being part of this movement and for being part of A2P2. We need you. This is your moment. Become a member. Join A2P2. Be part of this movement. Please join and become a member. Now, thank you all for being here. We win. We win. We win. That's right. Shout out to Ann Jackson for helping out with that cheer. Thank you, Ann. So as I was saying at the end, you guys should really become members, though. You know, I was feeling the spirit, but you guys should really become members, right? Because becoming a member and paying that, paying your dues, even if it's once a year. How much is it? It's $35. At least it was for a while. $35 a year. You can give whatever you can. Become part of A2P2. Because what they do on a day-to-day basis, they have events like this, but they also do a whole lot more advocacy at City Hall. Earth Day events. Don't you do like a monthly, what's it called? Solidarity Saturday.
If you become a member, you get to vote on the decision.
There you go.
Voting member.
This is a democratic process. It's so cool. And I'm proud to be a member of A2P2, so please join, become a member. Now, I have the distinct pleasure and honor and privilege of introducing our keynote speaker for the day, somebody that I have known for quite some time because we overlapped in college for a brief period. But our speaker, who you all know who I'm talking about already, but our speaker is somebody that I'm honored to introduce because of what I said right at the beginning of my speech, which is we have in Michigan and across the country, honestly, a problem with the Democratic Party, in my opinion, right? And because I've been doing this for as long as I have been personally put in a corner because I'm, as you can tell, a little outspoken, because I have strong opinions, because I actually don't believe that the oligarchy should be running things, and some of my Democratic friends do. And our next speaker is somebody that had the audacity to run for governor in our state. He had the audacity to enter into a Democratic election to run for the highest office in our state. And for doing that, I know it wasn't a very popular decision. A lot of people gave you a lot of crap for doing it. But what we need more than ever now is people who we know are going to be true to their values when they get elected to office. Oftentimes people will say on the campaign trail, I will do this, I will do that. It sounds really good. and then you get into power, you get into office, and suddenly the bells and whistles of being in power and in office suddenly attract you. And I've seen a lot of good people that I love get sucked into that. When I gave my farewell speech in the legislature, I said, it is like standing in a river. The momentum of politics pushes against you. And it takes somebody with a real strong stamina and a community behind them to be able to withstand that torrent that is coming at you. And there is one thing that I know about Abdul El-Sayed, and that is that he will stand strong in that river for us. He will stand strong in that river for the planet. He will stand strong in that river for the least among us. He will stand strong in that river and never back down. And that is why he is a candidate for Senate, for the United States Senate, and he is also my friend. Help me welcome Abdul El-Sayed.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Listen, y'all, I got to tell you something. So, Yousef is the name Joseph in Arabic, all right? And I feel like our Joseph just went prophet mode here, huh? So I just want to get a feel for the group here. So, who here believes like me that we need and deserve a green future? Let me hear you. And who here believes in people over profits? Let me hear you. And who believes in public power? Let me hear you. My name is Abdul El-Sayed, and I'm running for U.S. Senate because honestly, it just shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard to pay for your groceries. It shouldn't be this hard to see a doctor and know you're not going to fall into debt. It shouldn't be this hard to pay your damn energy bill. But in the richest, most powerful country in the world, we're watching as corporations and billionaires and oligarchs have figured out how to monetize us at every turn. That's what's happening. No matter what it is you need to live your life, they found a way to stick their talons into that system to monetize you. It's like you are just an ATM. It goes from your pocket to a CEO's pocket. And let me tell you, your pocket's way thinner than that CEO's pocket. Now, I come to this work by way of healthcare. I'm a physician and I'm an epidemiologist. My work has always been about how do you keep people healthy in the first place and make sure they get the healthcare they need when they get sick. And when I trained in medicine, I came to realize that the very hospitals I was training in were places that tried to figure out how to kick out the people who needed the most care but had the least money, and how to bring in the people who needed the least care but had the most money. And at that point, you realize this is not a healthcare system. This is a profit-seeking system that uses healthcare as a pretext. Now look, we live in the year of our Lord 2025. The idea that you can turn on a light and get electricity, that's not new. But they want to tell us that we should be doing it the old way. That the best way to do that is to make sure we burn a bunch of black stuff that comes out of the ground into the lungs of our babies so that we can do it. Even though we have learned a long time ago how to harvest the very same electrons from the sun or from the movement of the wind or from our water. And yet, it's way cheaper and they make more money when we do it the old way. Doesn't matter that there are babies in our communities that are hacking up lungs because of asthma that should not have to exist. Doesn't matter that we're poisoning our air and water for the future. It doesn't matter that we are literally destroying the very earth that sustains us. If they can make a buck, that's okay. I'll tell you my story. I live not too far away from here, okay? We bought a house in 2021, all right? And I'm like one of the few millennials who like could imagine buying a house in our country, which is a problem. But we bought that house, and we said, you know what? I don't want to be in a situation where I've got to keep paying DTE all of my money, so we're going to put solar on our roof. And there were some incentives to do that. We forked over that money. We did that. We felt really good, right? And one of the things that happens when you get a solar rig is you realize that so long as the sun is up, you're making electricity. And if you have excess electricity, well, in theory, you could sell that back to the grid. And then I realized something. I was selling my electricity at a lower rate than the electricity I would buy from DTE. It's the same damn electricity. And at that point, I realized, I was like, no, this is not about energy. This is about figuring out how you can use my house as an ATM system for your profits rather than providing us reliable, accessible electricity. Now, good. So we bought our house in February. By March, we'd already had our first power outage. You know what they told me? It was a tree. I'm like, I get why you guys hate trees so much, huh? And it didn't come back on for like 3 days. And then in the summer, guess what? Lost my electricity for another 3 days. Another tree. I'm like, this place is called Ann Arbor. Like, it's literally called Tree Town. How haven't you all figured out how to protect our electricity from some trees? And I pay you how much? And now here's the crazy thing. We've been in our house for 4 years. Okay? 4 years. And despite the fact that I literally get data about how much energy our solar rig is creating, that we're creating 40% of our energy, at least, and then we've got a battery so we can store some of the rest of it, I'm paying more now for my electricity than I paid 4 years ago when I bought the house, before I ever had solar. And you have to ask yourself, why? It's the same damn electricity, and it still goes out like 3 times a year. What the is happening? So look, here today, we are engaging in a conversation that's built around 3 truths, okay? The first one is, we don't need a corporation for electricity. Second one is, we don't need fossil fuels for electricity. And the third one is, we together can control our electricity and do this work of addressing those first 2 problems, building clean energy and getting that damn corporation out of our way. But here's the challenge. Yousef talked about it. Corporations, they exist in part to monetize you and in part for their self-perpetuation, okay? Every corporate CEO understands that they're going to be judged based on how they perform every 3 months. It's a quarterly bottom line. That's what they're focused on. And I want to explain a process called financialization. You guys hear this word before? Financialization. So once you are a corporation beholden to a quarterly bottom line, what happens is that you're a lot more interested in what some equity analyst working on Wall Street thinks about how valuable you will be tomorrow, not how valuable you will be today. Because the question you're interested in isn't how profitable you are. It's on whether or not somebody wants to give you money, i.e. buy shares of your corporation. Be that a private investor or a public investor. So I want you to think about what happens. Everybody's traded on the same market. Doesn't matter if you're a pharmaceutical corporation, you make cars like Ford, or you are an energy corporation. And what that means then is that you're competing to show that you are going to be more profitable than another company is going to be profitable. And what happens then is that you have to be able to do things that show that you're going to be able to monetize your customers more next quarter than you did last quarter. So when I think about why, despite the fact that I can produce 40% of my energy needs from my solar system, why I'm paying more than I did 4 years ago, the logic sits 100% in the corporate capitalist system that delivers that financialization. Their goal isn't just to make money off me. It's to make more money off of me and you tomorrow than they made yesterday and they made the day before. So don't ever think that in this system you're ever going to get a break. Because the whole point that that CEO exists to deliver on is that they're going to get more out of you tomorrow than they got today, than they got the day before, than they got the day before that. That means your bills are going to keep going up, and that means that if they have to spend money on the infrastructure to prevent your electricity from going out, well, that's going to cost money, so it's not going to be good for next quarter's bottom line, so probably we're not going to do that. That's how this system works. And it works the same way here as it does in healthcare. Anybody here with diabetes, you don't have to raise your hand, HIPAA, right? But I see you, okay? For a long time, people who need insulin for diabetes have seen their insulin costs go up and up and up, okay? And you wonder, this drug literally has been in existence for over 100 years. The guy who discovered insulin, he sold the patent for $1. Probably because he was Canadian. And he sold that patent for $1 because he said insulin is for the world. Now, you got to ask, why would the manufacturers of insulin keep charging more and more? Well, it's because they have a captive audience. Because people with diabetes can't choose, well, I've been priced out of my insulin, so maybe I'll just, not take my insulin and die. Right? That's not a choice they can make, so they're going to keep paying. But why would they make that choice? Because they only get so many new medications every year. So in order to meet that devouring monster of financialization, they just raise the prices on all their old drugs. That's why insulin keeps getting more expensive. It's the same reason your electricity bill keeps going up. It's the same reason that they figured out, like some car company figured out how to charge you for your air conditioning in your car, right? Because they got to figure out ways to monetize you. And so today we're talking about public power. But I want us to understand that this is just one symptom of a far bigger disease. And it's the disease that has affected our economics and our politics. Yousef already told you. In order for them to get away feeding the beast of financialization, they got to figure out how to make sure that elected officials don't regulate them out of doing it because it's patently bullshit. And so what do? They take a little bit of that money that they make and they invest it in their corporate PAC. That same corporate PAC spent $200,000 against me when I ran for governor. I shudder to think what this speech here is going to cost me in my run for U.S. Senate. But honestly, I welcome their hatred. Because at the end of the day, the responsibility of being a public servant is to serve the public. And if that public is getting monetized by those corporations, our responsibility isn't to figure out how to take their money and say just enough so that we're inoffensive to those same corporations and then we pass their bills and you all keep getting monetized. No, our responsibility is to show up, step up, fight back. But here's the thing. Nobody can do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. So today, the ask is to keep fighting for public power. We have an opportunity in Ann Arbor to take our power back, to do our part to protect our trees that apparently are like bad for electricity access, to do our part to protect our trees, to protect our environment, to protect our earth, and also to do our part to protect our own damn pocketbooks. That's step one. But the next step is to keep the ball rolling. And I know that the leaders here understand that this is part of a far larger project. Corporations are not necessary in our economy. People are. And if we're willing to take back our power, if we're willing to take back our money, if we're willing to stand up to the power that they think they have over us and take that power back, if we're willing to stand up to financialization, to stand up to that corporate beast, we can win. Y'all are here because we can. But beyond joining A2 for Public Power, which you definitely should, $35 a year, okay? I also want you to make sure that when we have this meeting next time, it's bigger. Because here's the thing about it. There's a trick that our politicians play on us, which is to tell us that we exist in small little tribes and we cannot reach beyond our tribe. That the challenges that we face in our lives, we uniquely face in our lives. But I've crisscrossed our state. I know Yousef has crisscrossed the state. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to folks in Ann Arbor, or you're talking to folks in Flint or Detroit, or you're talking to folks in Kalkaska or Oscoda, they're complaining about the same issues. They're complaining about DTE. They're complaining about the price of medications. They're complaining about why they feel like their kid's school is not preparing them for the future. And it's all part of the same challenge. So I want you today to join A2 for Public Power, to believe that we can win this fight. But I also want you to go and have those conversations with folks who might not want to spend their Saturday afternoon in a room talking about public power. I want you to ask them what their DTE bill is and about whether or not they're getting the service they think they deserve, about how many times their electricity has been interrupted, about whether or not they believe we could do better. And the next time we have this meeting, I want you to bring a friend. I want you to bring 2 friends. Because the way we win back our democracy, the way we win back our economy, is to do it together. That's right. And we have to believe that persuasion, that mutual understanding and engagement, that the attempt to reach across whatever divides they tell us we cannot possibly penetrate, that's what democracy was built on. And it's our democracy, it's our collective engagement that will win the future for us. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I deeply appreciate the organizers. I appreciate Yousef for taking us to church. And I appreciate all of you for the incredible work you are doing today to build us a tomorrow where we can breathe clean air, drink clean water, and know that when we turn on the light, it's not coming at the cost of our earth. Thank you so much. So I was told I got time for some questions. Happy to answer any questions if folks have them. All right, we got a question in the back. I see a hand over here. Yep. If you want to come up here, no. I see.
Hello?
One question. Oh, wow. All right. Here and here, I see hands. Go ahead.
It's pretty generalized, but how do we make the public and public power empower getting money out of politics?
Yeah. So one of the things that's fascinating, I already told you my experience, right? DTE spends their money in corporate PACs to invest in politicians so that those politicians will pass their bills. And literally, it's like literally they'll have a bill, and like the elected official will just take the bill and go. Like, and the official might have some questions, but then the lobbyist is like, no, this is the bill. And the elected official is like, understood. I understand. I work for you. So the thing I'm going to ask you, right? The one thing I'm going to tell you is like, you can hold your elected officials accountable. So take a look at where DTE is spending its money. It's public information. Take a look at what politicians are taking that money, and then let them know what you think, right? Let them know that you're not happy when they're taking money from the same corporation who's raising the costs on you just because they can. Let them know that you don't want to be monetized by our economy, by your electricity provider that you're required to have, right? And let them know you want another option. And I think it's us recognizing that our stake in democracy is a vote, fine, but it's so much more than a vote. And I think that's honestly one of my frustrations, that like we're taught that all you kind of got to do is show up. And that's table stakes. Show up on election day, yes, and then show up every single day after that to hold the folks that you elected accountable, right? So I'll be honest with you, yeah, I'm running for U.S. Senate. And I hope that I can represent you. But I also hope that if I do something that pisses you all off, that you're going to find yourself in my office telling me about what I did wrong, so I could do it right next time, right? But that's how the system is supposed to work. So if we want to take our money out of politics, you have to increase the cost of taking corporate money in the first place. So.
In Detroit, we started a group called Move the Money Michigan, and it's move the money from the Pentagon to social needs and social service. They passed a resolution in Detroit and in Amtrak, and we want to pass one in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti.
Fantastic.
So that's the work we need to do. We can get it out of the millionaire, but we can get it out of the Pentagon. We have too big of a military budget. We have to stop bombing and heal this planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Cosign. So let me just comment on that real quick. I want you all to think about something crazy. Every year, the military budget goes up, and it goes up faster than almost any other part of our budget. Meanwhile, we saw Doge, right, Musk's crew, kill USAID. And I want you to think about our footprint in the world, okay? I want you to think about your tax dollars, because all of this is money that originated in your pocket. It's our money. Isn't it crazy that they saw it fit to end a program that literally bought HIV medications for small children, kids who died because we pulled that funding? And we're investing even more in the DoD budget. Now, I'll be honest with you, like if I have to choose, I'm picking USAID, not US DoD. And so we've got an opportunity to start talking about those things. right? What should our footprint in the world be? We are the richest, most powerful country in the world, right? You hear us talk about this rules-based international order. You know who tends to break those rules most often? We do. And we break it miserably, disastrously, destroying people. And then you ask, well, you know, you look at schools like this school could be so much better. I love this school, it's a nice school. But like, let's be honest. In a world where our kids' schools don't get the funding they need, why is it that we're spending our tax dollars abroad to drop bombs on other kids in their schools? It's insane. So your hand, sir? Your turn.
That's kind of like the statement I wanted to make, and maybe you can comment on it, but people think Trump is evil? Yeah. Yeah, he is, right? I got some, well, then I got some, huh? Can't hear you back there. People think Trump is evil.
You want to come to the mic?
People think Trump is evil. I think he is. But I got some good news for you. The United States is getting its ass kicked internationally right now. Okay? The disassociation with Israel and the genocide that's taken place, it's given the United States a very bad name. And you've got a competitor in China right now who's gone from poverty to a player in 40 years. How'd they do that? Well, they focused on manufacturing things and building things rather than financialization. If we hate Trump, the good news is he's getting his ass kicked internationally right now. Because I see it falling apart on him. So, can people comment on that, maybe?
So I'll tell you this. I agree with you about Donald Trump. Like, true, you know, there is I'm a doctor by training. So my job for a long time in my career was to identify pain and the things that pain does to people. And I try to see the best in all people. What Donald Trump does is evil. And then I gotta wonder, like, how hurt did he get as a child? To manifest the purest, most disastrous version of like essential narcissism. It's telling. And at some point you like almost gotta be like, man, like, you know, this statement, hurt people, hurt people. I remember when I did my psychiatry rotation, my wife's a psychiatrist. Like, I remember the first day, the doctor we were learning from was like, basically, if you want to understand like all of this, it's hurt people, right? Hurt people, hurt people. That's a very hurt person. He's a very broken person. And the hard part for me is Donald Trump is absolutely devastating our country right now. But like, I want our country to win. I don't want to get our ass kicked. I just don't define winning as being the biggest, baddest military in the world. I define winning as being able to be the best at doing the things that are best beneficial to people around the world and in our country as well. And the thing that I'm the most sad about is that, like, if America had one neat trick, is that it inspired all the best and brightest from all over the world to want to come here and build here. My dad immigrated here back in 1978, nearly 50 years ago. The life I lived, I got to live it because of this country and because of that opportunity, right? So I also know what America does really, really well. And one of the things I want us to believe in is it's hard as somebody who has so many criticisms of our country to feel like we could ever be great. But we can. Like, America can do really great things. It really can. We choose not to. We choose not to because of a ton of systems, financialization being one of many. But I actually want us to get about doing really great things. I want us to be curing cancer and curing and treating HIV. I want us to be building schools abroad. I want us to be leading on building the future of clean energy. I want us to do all those things, and we can. That's the thing, we can. And in rooms like this, we have to make a little bit of a pivot, which is that we have watched people in positions of power move our government into doing such awful things that sometimes we don't believe that leaders could actually get it to do great things that we all believe in. And we have to be believing in that, right? So I root deeply for America, not to win the wayward, stupid, ridiculous battles that our politicians too often get us in, but to win the future for all the values I and you believe in. That's the kind of American dream that I think all of us want to be a part of. And that doesn't mean that we cede, we step back, we get weak. That means we get strong for all the right reasons. Strength is not a bad thing. Strength used in the wrong way is a bad thing. But strength can bully, but strength can also protect, right? Strength can destroy, but strength can also build and create. And I think we have to be willing to pivot around that question of what real American strength can and should be. What does it look like to lead from a position of values, to hold ourselves accountable to our own rules, and also be an actual force for good? And it's like, it's been so long since we saw that happening that sometimes I think we've given up on the idea. But we will not win the future by ceding from the playing field. We will not. We win the future by embracing that future where we're doing the right things with what American strength and largesse is. I think we can get there, right? I would not be running for this office if I didn't believe that we could. And we all have to believe that we can. How much time do we have? One more question? I'm sorry? All right, who? Des, you got the question. I'm sorry, folks. By the way, those earrings.
Thank you. Sorry, y'all. It helps to be known by name. Hello, Desiree. So my question, you were talking about financialization, and I think about how that's come into our democracy, right? And corporations being people and power. So my question is, as you think about your campaign, and I'll just assume that you might not be the most moneyed of the candidates that we're going to see running in this race. What does that look like?
DTA took all my money.
Yeah. So what do you think that looks like for you to be able to push back? Because I know locally we've seen it in Ypsilanti, where moneyed interests have not won against the people. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, first, I really appreciate that question, and thank you for your leadership.
Des is also a city council member in Ypsilanti.
You know, I think a lot about, as a child of immigrants, there's a lot of work you put in when people tell you you don't belong to understand your belonging, right? And so in some respects, like, my being American has been contested by other people my whole life. Never been contested to me, right? I know what it means to me to be born and raised here because I spent a lot of my childhood seeing what it meant for my cousins who are smarter, worked just as hard, if not harder, what it meant for them not to be born here. See what I'm saying? And then I think about what is it that in the era in which I grew up, for all of our flaws, what is it that at least America got right for me, right? And I have to go back to founding ideals and documents, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, I should say people, are created equal, right? That we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. You know what it doesn't say? We the money, right? We the dollar signs, yeah? And so to me, I think part of winning an election, especially in a race like this, is not just about trying to play the game as it's played right now to get where one wants to go, but to change the game itself and to move the game back to what this was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a game. They treat it like a game. When you're playing with like Monopoly money, it becomes a game. But that's not what it is for us. We sit on the other side of all of their game, right? Their monopoly. We watch as we get monetized every time our little car lands on Park Place, right? And I think we have to change the game. And to me, that means organizing people, right? It means being able to have conversations with folks founded in a very basic thing that, frankly, I learned how to do when I went to med school. You walk into a clinical room, and you ask two questions. What's wrong, and how can I help? Those happen to be the two same questions you ask in politics. What's wrong, and how can I help? But it starts with actually being willing to acknowledge the pain. And let me just be clear. When DTE gives you a corporate check, you think that doesn't come with some shame? And so what happens when you're ashamed that you got into office telling folks that you were going to help them, and then you take that money and then you pass that bill knowing it's going to hurt people, you know what that shame does to you? It means that you're not willing to actually show up to those people because you're too ashamed. And then you're not willing to actually say what's wrong because you know what's wrong because you did it. See what I'm saying? And the thing that not taking that money does for you is it opens up the opportunity to just be like, I know it hurts. So let's talk about what we can do to fix it. You know what Trump did? I mean, it's because of his essential narcissism. He understands pain. But you know what he does with it? He weaponizes it back against you. He takes your pain and then he turns it into cynicism. And out of that cynicism, he forges the worst in us. Exactly. You're in pain because of them. They're in pain because of you. All of you, right? I'm going to take all your power. That's what he does. The problem, though, is that Democrats haven't been able to actually show up because we're denying the pain because we helped create it. So, like, we got a responsibility to show up and just be like, hey, you're in pain. I get it. So what are we going to do to fix it, to make it better? And I think that becomes a revolutionary act in our politics because so few people are willing to do it. Right? A lot of people want to run on vibes. Yeah? You hear it all the time. It's like a vibes, and you're like, okay, so like, what is the there? Right? What are you fighting for? They're like, we're going to fight. You're like, okay, you want to fight? Like, I mean, like, you don't look like you've ever been in a fight, but like, you know, you want to fight? Okay, like, you know, join the UFC, a lot of ways to fight, but like, what are you fighting for? But we're going to fight. Really, I understand that right now we're in a fight, so I'm ready to fight, right? I got receipts on that. But I actually want to heal. And I think the way you do that is to actually go and figure out what's wrong. And over time, when people trust that you're actually there for a reason, that you actually care, that you're not playing the same game that they're playing, you can start to organize people and build a movement. This race is going to cost money. There are a lot of people who are going to give a lot of money, right? Because I'm willing to say that what happened in Palestine, right, what happened in Gaza is a genocide. There are people who want to, like, they want to, like, end my possibility of ever existing in our politics. Here's the interesting thing, right? When there's a ton of money, right, that's spent to make sure, like literally MAGA money spent to make sure that you can't say the obvious thing, they turn saying the obvious thing into a revolutionary act. So it's actually kind of crazy because then you're like, hey, isn't it nuts that like we're sending money to foreign militaries, like rich country foreign militaries, to drop bombs on other people's kids when your kid's school is underfunded? People are like, damn, that is nuts. How come nobody ever says that? Right? So my ask is that as you all leave here today, just like I said, this meeting needs to be bigger next time. We've got to work together. If you trust that we can actually build something that's greater than the sum of the parts, if you trust that government and our government can actually be a tool for good, then my ask of you is, you know, I can't do it alone. Like, we do it together. This is a collective act. So I'm asking folks to go out and be a part of this. Organizing isn't something I do. It's something we do, right? And I think that's the answer. The other point I'll make to you is I am going to have to raise some money, right? This race is not going to, like, you know, rub two coins together like I wish I could. But it is going to cost some money. And I'm not taking it from corporations, so I'm asking folks who believe in what we're trying to do here to be a part of it. $5, $10, right? I would rather 1 million people each give me $1 than take $1 million check from one person, right? I really appreciate your question. All right, friends, look, we got our work cut out for us. You guys know what the charge is. We don't have to be beholden to the corporation. We don't have to keep paying more. We don't have to get crushed by financialization. We can choose something better. We can choose something more honest. We can choose ourselves, and we can choose our earth. And right now, you all are here because you've made that choice. My hope, though, is that you don't see the playing field. This can't just be like a fun thing we did on Saturday, okay? Is that you all have to go and have that conversation with other people who are not here, right? Who do not see it as clearly as you, who may be too busy, too encumbered, trying to pay those bills, to have the time. The ask is to go find them in their lives and have that conversation with them and see if we can't get them to show up here for themselves, for us, for our earth. Really appreciate you all. Thank you.
everything. Okay, I just want to say what Yousef just what Abdul just described of going into people's neighborhoods and talking to the people that are not normally in these fights. Yousef said it too. That is exactly what A2P2 is launching right now. So now is the time, and if it's not public power for you, that's okay. Do something to make this world better. Please give it up for Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Give it up for Yousef Rabhi. Give it up for Hannah Baker. Give it up, everybody, for Michelle Deatrick. Please give it up for Michelle Martinez. To the wonderful co-sponsors of this event. I know, one more time, I'm sorry. Yeah. And the last one is the incredible people that make up Ann Arbor for Public Power that are in this room and that are also going to be you soon enough.